So we just discussed Jim Crow etiquette, right? Mannerisms black people must display, showing that they were inferior to white people, right? Well, there's another thing about Jim Crow etiquette that we did not discuss, okay? And I would like to discuss that now. And that is, black people could not be seen doing better than white people. They could not be seen having more money than white people. Their businesses could not be doing better than white people's. They could not be better off financially than white people. Okay? Tulsa, Oklahoma is a prime example. Okay? The story says that the all-black neighborhood was destroyed by a white mob because a white girl said that a young black man assaulted her. Okay? Now, when you do additional reading, when you go deeper, you will learn that the all-black neighborhood was well off. They didn't call it Black Wall Street for nothing. It was a well-off black neighborhood that thrived even during the Depression, while the white neighborhoods struggled. It even speaks of the white men and their envy. So the white woman saying that the young black man assaulted her, that was used as an excuse for these white men to come in and destroy an all-black neighborhood that was thriving. And that's just one example. There are so many more. Race rioting. In every instance, it's because Southern whites were resentful of black advancement. As in the case of Elmore Bowling, who leased a plantation where he had a general store with a gas station out front and a catering business. He grew cotton, corn, and sugarcane. He also owned a small fleet of trucks that ran livestock and made deliveries between, Loudonsboro, I know I said that wrong, and Montgomery. He employed as many as 40 black people. One day, December 1947, a group of white men showed up at Bowling's store. They confronted him, and then they shot him 7 times. The shooters didn't even bother to cover up their faces. They didn't need to. Everyone knew who did it, and everyone knew why. Someone who knew Bowling told the newspapers at the time he was too successful to be a Negro. And just like that, overnight, the Bowlings went from prosperity to poverty. Bertha May found work at a dry cleaner, and the older children dropped out of school to help support the family. The jobs that Elmore Bowling had provided, they were gone. And within 2 years, his surviving family had fled, fearing for their lives. Then there was Thomas Moss. He opened the People's Grocery in the Curve, an area right outside Memphis, Tennessee. And he was competing with another store that used to have a monopoly, and it was owned by a white man. And the People's Grocery, well, the clientele was, the black community. You know how we do. Needless to say, white people were very angry because how dare somebody black open a store without their permission and take their customers away from them? Well, on Wednesday, March 2nd, 1892, Trouble began with a young black boy, young Armour Harris, and a young white boy, Cornelius Hurst. They got into a fight over a game of marbles. Well, the young white boy, his father stepped in and began beating the black boy. They could do that back then. Two black workers from the grocery store, well, one of them, by the name of, who was it, Will Stewart, and another one, Calvin McDowell, they came to the young black boy's defense, okay? Well, an all-out brawl ensued. Like, it just, a straight fight ensued, okay? Now, police officers come in, and they arrest the owner, Thomas Moss. They arrest Will Stewart, and they arrest Calvin McDowell, the three black men. What do you think happened to those three black men? Those three black men were shot several times and lynched. White people were threatened by the gains that black people made since the end of enslavement. Advancements that were not aided by the promised 40 acres and a mule. This was done without help, because the one thing black people know how to do is work it out. And we can make gold out of trash, because that is what we've had to do since landing in this country. You don't want to give us 40 acres? Fine. You want to take the mule? That's fine too. We'll work it out. And that was a problem, because we were able to make something from nothing. I think of all the Jim Crow laws that black people couldn't break. This one was up there, considering how many towns were burned to the ground, how many people died just because they did well. They had a good job. They were good business managers. They had good business sense. One guy had his friend redraw the property lines because he could not read. His neighbor was a black man who had more land than he did, and he was jealous. So he had his friend redraw the property lines so that he got more of the black man's land. And when the black man objected, do you know what they did? Can you guess? And then when he died, the white man goes out there with the sheriff and says, no, all of this land is mine. And what's the wife going to do? She knew better than to fight, or she'd be dead too. They lied, they cheated, and they stole to take property, to take businesses, to take wealth that rightfully belonged to black people because they felt it belonged to them. Because in their mind, they could not live in a world where black people did better than them. Because black people were supposed to be inferior and they were supposed to be superior.